There's some just beloved parables that Jesus tells. We're just going to basically take them all at once. I just want to read through them, make a few comments as we go, but then come back to all of them. I mean, because they really all go together. I mean, they are in some ways making the same point and addressing the same situation. But with all three of these parables, I do want to ask a question about how realistic these parables are. That is, the behavior of the people in these parables, is it realistic or is it sort of special and unique? Does the behavior of these people match our own experiences and the ways we might behave? Or is there something different about it? And I think, I'll tip my hand a little bit. I think the answer is both. I think there are things about these parables where these people behave in ways that are very familiar to us, ways that we can relate to. And at the same time, there's something unique and different. So just maybe keep that question in mind, and then I'd like to come back to it. But let's dive in. All right, we're in chapter 15, verse 1. The very first verse of this chapter is important. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Now, that's so important for what's about to follow, because Jesus is describing the grace of God, which is offensive to these people. These parables, again, they're about the forgiveness of Jesus, the forgiveness of God, his mercy, which is bothersome to people. And we should never be too quick to judge Pharisees and scribes, because there are Pharisees and scribes living in our own hearts, okay? As much as we might be able to identify with the tax collectors and sinners, as human beings, we will also find the Pharisees and scribes very much alive in our own hearts. But one more thing, I think just context is helpful. Just look at the previous verse. Look at the very end of chapter 14. The very last thing Jesus said in chapter 14, "Let anyone with ears to hear listen." Jesus is preaching and teaching, and he's saying, if you can understand what I'm saying, listen up. And there are people who understand. There are people with ears to hear. And the ones with ears to hear happen to be tax collectors and sinners. The people who really understand, who absorb what Jesus is saying, who love it, who want more of it. It's not, not your typical crowd, or not the ones you would associate with as being particularly religious. In fact, tax collectors, this even came up in a sermon recently, in the rabbinical writings, or the writings of the rabbis, in early Judaism here in these early centuries of the church. The rabbis would even say tax collectors, would have special restrictions against participation in society because of their jobs and because of their reputation as crooks. They weren't even allowed to be witnesses in a courtroom. The rabbis thought these tax collectors were so crooked, they didn't trust them and weren't even to be called on into court to testify. These tax collectors, and we don't know really what kind of sinners these are, but sinners who had enough of a reputation that the Pharisees and scribes were bothered that they were coming to Jesus. Most of us are pretty good at hiding our sins. Some are less so. Some people, their sins are evident. Their lives are falling apart, and everybody around is aware. Oh yeah, that's we don't know what it was in particular, but something. Something about these people was public in their shame. And these are the ones who had ears to hear. These are the ones who loved what Jesus was saying. And so now, because this bothers the Pharisees and scribes, Jesus tells these parables. So verse 3, so he told them this parable. Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? When he's found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost." Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost.' Just so, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." And I guess I would pause and just ask this question again. Is this realistic? The behavior of the people involved in these stories, is it the way we would behave? Or is it out of the ordinary? Just a quick comment about the words here. This woman has 10 silver coins. The Greek word is drachma. You might have heard that word before, like denarius. There's another Greek coin. A drachma is actually similar to a denarius. It might have been the payment for a day's wage. So we're not talking pennies, but we're also not talking, millions of dollars here. And yet this woman really kind of loses her mind looking for these things. She is very determined to find it. And so I guess I'll pause right there. We can ask this question again with the next parable, a longer one, the Prodigal Son. But just so far, what do you think? I mean, is the behavior of these people realistic? Does it match our own behavior? Does it match our own experiences? And I'll try to unmute people. I kind of mute our conversations during Bible study, but I can unmute people. Patricia, you had a hand up. Go ahead.
Well, I say yes. And my thought right away went to think of all the communities when a person is missing,
Yeah.
the whole community,
Yeah.
or state,
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll turn up and look for
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
that person is found.
Yeah, great example. Yeah. Patricia pointed out kind of a realistic situation similar to this, where if there's a missing person, like let's say a kidnapped child or something, you might have the whole state involved. It's on the news. You get all these people involved in the search. Yeah, so that's a great example where that does match, the kind of things that Jesus is describing. Yeah, go ahead. Other thoughts. And I apologize if I'll try to get you unmuted here. Deneen, you might have to tap your mute unmute button. Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to say that I absolutely agree with you in terms of people literally losing their minds to find things.
Yeah.
I dropped my purse on the ground. I took it from around my neck
Yeah.
and put it on the side of my seat.
Yeah.
And I'm rolling home, and I look, and no purse. You should have seen me. My mind started wondering, okay, where could I have dropped it? I went back, retraced my steps, and of course I found it. But yes, retrieving things is very important.
Yeah.
And I'm going to relate that to God or Jesus coming back for us.
Yeah.
We're there with him, then we strike.
Yep. Right.
And never gives up. So that would be, my understanding of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Relating it to Jesus and his love for us and forgiveness.
Yeah, Denise, in case you didn't hear it, she talked about looking for a lost purse, retracing her steps and that sort of thing. So, and that very much similar to God and the way he treats us. And especially considering that this is an ongoing process, and this sort of thing happens over and over again. We're with God, and then we stray, and he finds us, and we're with God, and we stray, and he finds us. In some ways, this is repeated on a daily basis. Other thoughts, other experiences? Yeah, Denise.
I just think that even the smallest of things.
Yeah.
It's not even a big item
Yeah.
or anything, but when it's lost,
Yeah.
you're,
Yep.
and just a simple example
Yep.
of that, but when I do teaching, if something fell off my lap and on the floor, the kids could not learn until I picked that piece up and put it back
Yeah.
into my thing. So it's like we just want,
Yeah.
that's not really lost, but that
Yeah.
feeling is there.
Right.
So,
Yeah, Denise talked about how this can be the smallest things when she was teaching, and if something would fall on the floor, the classroom would come to a halt until she could pick that up and get it back in her possession. Yeah. And yeah, the smallness of it is so interesting. And this is, probably one of our favorite examples. You lose the littlest thing, little pieces of metal here. But boy, when you lose those little pieces of metal, you just kind of lose your mind. You pull out every couch cushion, you turn upside down everything in the house, and how kind are we to the people around us when we're looking for these things? Not kind at all. Is that your checkbook or your phone? Oh yeah, that's right. If you checkbook, phone, I mean, these littlest things. And yeah, I mean, I can speak from experience. We're not kind to the people around us. We blame, where did you leave this? You must have had this, It's just, we kind of, we lose our minds. And
Thomas lost his glass case lately, if anybody can help find it.
uh-oh, we have a real life example right now. Tom, Tom is missing his glasses case. Yeah, but no, right, when it's your glasses, that's especially frustrating because you need them to find what you're looking for, and so if you misplace your glasses, it just makes it doubly worse. So,
I would have mine on top of my head in school.
right, yeah, I know. So, yeah, exactly. As Sue just pointed out, sometimes we're looking for our glasses and they're right here, We're looking all over for these things that's right on top of our head. So I would say in that regard, it is, very true to our experience. And yet, again, there are these things I would say also that point to something special about this. One example of this, in that first parable, back in verse 4, the way that it says the shepherd leaves the 99 in the wilderness. That is kind of, I don't know, there's something different about that. You'd think, okay, he'll get the 99 back to their pen, he'll make sure that they're safe, and then he'll go looking for that one. But the shepherd kind of loses his head. And maybe this is similar to us. You lose your keys, your credit card, something valuable, and you just kind of, you lose your mind until it's found. Maybe that is very realistic or true to experience. And yet again, there's something kind of out of his mind about this shepherd, leaving 99 in the wilderness. This is why you have a shepherd, is so that in the wilderness they have someone to protect them. There are dangers in the wilderness. I mean, wolves, etc. And he's going to expose these 99 to these dangers just so he can find the one. And I mean, I guess, if we want to relate that back to God, it simply points out that God's grace will always seem offensive or dangerous to the ones who think that they are safe and don't need his help. There's, in this case, the Pharisees and scribes. To the Pharisees and scribes, Jesus is behaving dangerously, recklessly. But boy, if you're that one sheep who's lost, this is wonderful that a shepherd would behave like that. And it kind of, I think these parables kind of force us to one side or the other here. Are we going to be with the lost sheep, or are we going to be with the 99 who are complaining that this is dangerous? That's, I think, kind of how this parable unfolds and pushes us to one side or the other. In truth, if we would, listen to God's word and trust him, we'll recognize we are lost sheep. We are sinful lost sheep who need his grace. And like I say, as much as we might, we do, all of us have the Pharisees and scribes living in our hearts. That is, I think, that is our experience. As much as it is true, we are lost sheep. Quite often we behave and think more like these Pharisees and scribes. So we need this parable to remind us, no, you are the lost. Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
Could it be that the shepherd had enough faith
Yeah.
in God
Sure. Yeah.
to take care of the other 99
Sure.
while he went?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Did the shepherd simply have faith in God to watch over his sheep? And I would say that's a great reminder for all of us. We should have faith in God. That, I guess there are moments, in a sense, when you become that shepherd yourself, and you kind of labor over one child. If one child is really acting up, and you have to really devote attention to that one child, and you say a prayer, God, please watch over these others. Or a teacher in a classroom, you end up kind of devoting a lot of time to one student. And you just say a prayer, God, please watch over the others, you know. Right, that is, I think, part of our lives of faith, is to trust God, to watch over, you know, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And then I will say one more thing. I'll pause here. Karen, you've got a hand up. I think we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah. About my kids.
Yeah,
I hope I'm not crying.
it's okay. Go ahead.
Tony moved to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many religions there.
Yeah,
They all my kids grew up the same here.
yeah.
And he was very confused
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many religions there.
Yeah,
And all my kids said, you can't force me to believe what you believe.
yeah,
And I talked to them all the time, and I said, this is the way it is.
yeah,
And they said, you can't force me.
yeah.
And Stephanie went to the cities,
Mhm.
and she got a tattoo on her hand of something I literally despise.
Yeah.
And I got tattoos with my kids for cancer and for love.
Mhm.
And she asked me to get a tattoo with her. And I said, absolutely not. And I still feel really bad to this day.
Yeah.
And I told her, you cannot come home here unless you come through this house and celebrate Easter for the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And I reached out to her and I sent Bible verses and stuff. And she was against me. And I, like your parable,
Yeah.
you reach out to one,
Yeah.
reach out to the other.
Yeah.
And I always reached out to her. And she never wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I continued. And I know she's happy because I saw her. And I know that she came back to what her faith was because I know she did. Because I know deep down she believed. She just had this attitude of wanting to be her own person.
Yeah.
But it was a congregation that always loved Stephanie and always reached out for Stephanie. And the congregation always prayed for her.
Yeah.
Haley's always been faithful. Tony's fighting it. But, he's there.
Yeah.
He's just, he's not with a congregation.
Yeah.
So he needs some prayers, but I think he's getting there.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but everybody's different,
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
prayers, and they just need constant prayers. And Keegan's with Grandma, and she's Mormon, and they won't let me come to church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They won't let me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then trust in some of those seeds that have been planted. You you yourself have planted those seeds, and yeah, people at this church and others. I think that's, I think find yourself in that position, like what Patricia was describing a moment ago. That, yeah, at times, yeah, when you're pursuing a lost sheep, a lost child, you have to leave these other sheep in God's hands and say, God, watch over them. But yeah, Karen, you know what it's like, this parable that we're about to read, this parable of the prodigal, the son, and you know what it's like to be a parent or a grandma, waiting and praying. Now, I want to point out one more thing now about this, the parable of the coin here. And again, it's very similar to, I think, what we've experienced, when you think about chasing your keys, your phone, your glasses. One thing, I think that we understand what it's like to lose your mind looking for something. One thing I think that's really unique about this, the woman looking for this coin, is that by the end of it, she's inviting the whole neighborhood over to celebrate with her over one coin. And I'd say this is unique. I mean, I've lost my mind over trying to find my keys or my phone. I've never called the neighborhood to celebrate when I found it. And I mean, this, I think, is really Jesus highlighting sort of the unique nature of God's mercy. That God is so determined to find us, to save us. And then God's heart just bursts with joy in our salvation. And this is really different, I mean, from these Pharisees and scribes. I mean, you know, I guess if you'd press these Pharisees and scribes, maybe you could have gotten them to admit, okay, fine, it's good that they're saved. But could you have really led these guys to joy? You know, do we rejoice like this, you know, over a lost soul? We probably don't rejoice like this over found car keys, but God rejoices over a sinner who is saved. Tom, I see you waving your hand. Go ahead.
Would scribes be considered government?
More religious. I mean, perhaps. I mean, these. Tom asked if these scribes were government or would they be church?
Well, they made laws, right?
Yeah, more likely. I think it's more likely that they were religious figures. Although, you know, in first century Judaism, the lines between government and religion might have been a little fuzzier than they are for us. They're officials. I mean, they're educated. It's possible that they were, you know, religious scribes. That is, their job was to copy scriptures or copy, you know, the writings of the rabbis and that sort of thing. But they could have been legal scribes as well. I guess it's unclear. But they seem to have, you know, in this case, they seem to have some religious authority because they're questioning Jesus over his association with sinners. And so even if they are, you know, more of a governmental job, they're kind of wading into some religious matters here. So, yeah, good question. Now I'm gonna press on. Then now this is maybe the real favorite parable of the chapter. It's maybe even the most best known of any of Jesus's parables. Although I guess we should say the parable of the lost sheep. I mean that's also, I'd say, also a very beloved and well-known parable, especially because it resonates with Psalm 23, but also all of Jesus's teachings about himself as the Good Shepherd. And that teaching of Jesus, I am the Good Shepherd, that actually comes from the Gospel of John. But obviously there are echoes here in the parable that Jesus tells in Luke. But now, I mean, maybe what follows now is maybe the best known, or, you know, one of the best loved parables, the Prodigal Son. So starting at verse 11, then Jesus said, there was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me. So he divided his property between them. Okay, now let's just pause. What is the son telling his old man? I wish he would just drop dead, right? When do you get your inheritance? When the old man dies. This is what he's saying. I'm sick of waiting. I wish you would just drop dead right now, but because you're obviously healthy, I just want to give it to me now. Give me my share. I want to get out of here. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. Now, I mean, for Jesus' Jewish audience, that would have caught their ears. You know, pigs were an unclean animal, you know, and Jesus is sparring here with these Pharisees and scribes who were very familiar with the Jewish laws and Jewish teachings. This was especially bad that this poor kid had to, you know, hang out with the pigs. Again, just to highlight his sinfulness, that he's unclean. Verse 16, he would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. How many of you ever kept pigs? Yeah, I mean, it's a messy business, right? You don't give the pigs the best food off the table. You know, you give them the leftovers, the food that's going rotten. It's gross. So if the guy is so desperate, he would have eaten pig slop. Well, that tells you something about his situation. He's desperate. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. Now, just think about this for a moment. What moves this young man to go back home? Is it some newfound piety? Did he find religion? Is he just overwhelmed with love for his father and the brother he left behind? No, he's just hungry. He needs food, and he knows that the servants back home, they've got plenty to eat. He's just doing the math. And he says, I could go home and get a better meal than this. Not a very noble young man. So verse 18, I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. That's true. It's true. What he's saying is true, although, again, we might question his motives. Verse 19, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands. So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his slaves, Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Boy, there's so much here. These parables are so beautiful and multifaceted, so much to reflect on and think about and talk about. I mean, first of all, go back to verse 18 and 19 and look at this speech that the young man is preparing for his dad back home. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands. Notice this and skip ahead to verse 21. Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. It's exactly the same words that he was preparing back in the pig slop. I mean, again, you kind of question this guy's motives. Jesus himself tells us the reason why he's going back home is not because of a new love that he's discovered for his family, but because he's hungry. And I would say it is highlighted in the fact that the words that he says to his dad are the exact same words that he was practicing in the pig slop. All right? This is not, I don't know, it's hard to dive into his psychology, but I would at least say the guy is rehearsing. He's practicing this, word for word, what he's going to say. I think we are led to question this guy's motives, that this is kind of a rehearsed speech. It's a canned speech. I don't know if this really is coming from the guy's heart or if it's just kind of what he thinks is the best opportunity to get back into his father's good graces. But also notice this, the speech that he practices, again, he delivers word for word until he says, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Now look back at verse 19. There's more he has to go. He's got his script prepared. He's got more he's going to say, but the father cuts him off. He never even got to say that line, treat me like one of your hired hands. He never got to say it to his dad because his father cut him off. And that's why, this parable, what do we call this parable? What's the title, the common title for this parable? The parable of the prodigal son. The parable of the prodigal son. And yet really, this is not so much about the prodigal son as it is about the father who cuts him off. The father who interrupts him. The father who loves him so much that he runs to meet him. The father who is so full of love, he also, like that woman who found her coin, he also is going to throw a party because he's found his son. And so, this is about the prodigal son, but really this is even more about the love of the father, the parable of the loving father. Again, who loves his son so much, he's not going to sit and wait for him to finish his speech. It's not, this happens, this party happens, this reconciliation happens because of the father's love, not because of the quality of the son's remorse. He's going to throw a party. Now, I would say this probably feels a little bit more realistic. I've wanted to tease this out. Is this realistic? Is this kind of a special love, or is it the way we behave? I said in that previous one of the woman who found her coin, that seems a little bit odd that she throws a party just over a coin. This feels a little more true to life. Boy, if I were missing a child for years and then they came home, I might very well throw a party like this. But whether or not it's realistic, there's somebody who doesn't like it. There is somebody in the wings who's upset about what's going on. His father welcomes the boy home, and the older brother is ticked. He's really mad about this. And I'd say that also is very true to experience when you think about sibling rivalries. At times, sometimes kids just get mad because one kid, mom and dad spent like maybe $10 more on that kid's present. Sometimes we get mad over the little things. How much more in this case? This is a big party. This is a father rejoicing. And so, the brother is mad. And so verse 25, now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. This is just a little thing here, but the Greek words I think are kind of fun. It's literally the Greek words symphony and chorus. The older brother, he hears a symphony and a chorus. Lots of really good music going on. And so verse 26, he called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, your father has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has got him back safe and sound. Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him. This is heartbreaking stuff. This is the second time now on that day that father had to chase after one of his sons. First, the father was running because his son came home. And that is remarkable in itself. It seems to be a wealthy man, a landowner, probably a respected man in the community, not one that you would normally see running around after things. This is a stately man who would probably walk from place to place, and yet when his son comes home, he runs. He forgets propriety. He forgets dignity. All the normal ways of behaving go out the window. He's so filled with joy. But now once again, he has to run out. Maybe not run in this case, but he has to go after his other son because his other son is perhaps as lost as the prodigal. His other son is sort of buried in his own self-righteousness, buried in his own resentment. And so verse 29, but he answered his father. So now that older son speaks, he says, listen, for all these years, I've been working like a slave for you. Ouch, ouch. I've been working like a slave, Goodness sakes. Our kids, they should work hard. They should do their chores. That's part of raising kids is you want them to understand, hard work, responsibility. But if your kid says to you, I've been working like a slave, that hurts. I don't want my kids to think of themselves as slaves. I want them to work hard. But I don't want them to say, I've just been a slave. No, you haven't. I love you. I love you. You're not my slave. You're my child. You work hard. You do chores, but you're not my slave. And then he continues, the son, he says, and I have never disobeyed your command. Well, I'm a little doubtful of that, but okay, sure, go ahead. You think that. Yet the son says, you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. Now, that's probably true. Maybe the father was sort of using some hard love, tough love. You don't want to spoil your child. And sometimes those things stick and they get lodged in a kid's heart, lodged in his conscience. But then verse 30, this is sharp stuff. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him. This son of yours. Not only does this boy, this young man, think of himself as a slave to his father, he doesn't even recognize his own brother here. This son of yours. It's like that brother is like a stranger to him. He's just a son of yours. And the father said to him, son, you were always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours, not just my son, but your brother, this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found. Now that's the end of the chapter, you know? That's the end of the chapter. Wouldn't you like to know what happens next? I mean, I sure would like to think that that brother was won over by his dad's very heartfelt speech. I'd like to think, you know, that any of us might be able to let go of our resentment, you know, our resentment against, you know, our parents perhaps, or even our resentment against God for his grace, resentment against people who have hurt us. I'd like to think we could let go of that. Jesus doesn't answer that question right here, although he is so determined to overcome our sin and resentment that he's going to go all the way to the cross and carry those things himself. So resentment does not get the last word in the Gospels, but Jesus' death and resurrection get the last word. And so again, I guess we can come back to this question, does it match our experience? I would say, again, yes. There are times when we are so determined to find the things or the people, the ones we love, who are lost to us. I would say these things very much match our experience. And yet, there is something about these parables, I would say, that even exceeds our experience. That love of God is even greater. And when the Pharisees and scribes are living in our hearts, you know, when we are caught up in our own resentment, well, then it's always going to seem absurd that a shepherd would leave 99 in the wilderness. Or we ourselves might be stuck like this older brother, you know, just mad. You know, why do our own parents love and seem to pay so much attention to that lost child? You know, we ourselves behave like this at times, you know, or, you know, we might even shake our fist at God, or, you know, at God over these things. But Jesus always does, just takes the side of the lost sheep. He takes the side of the brother who runs away. And yet even still, he goes after the brother who stayed home. You know, he doesn't, that's maybe the beautiful thing about the prodigal son. In this story, he doesn't just go after the lost sheep in the wilderness. He goes back and cares for the 99. You know, he loves this prodigal, but also loves this grumpy child who's so full of resentment. You know, kind of getting back to that question about Jesus telling us to hate. Well, again, Jesus is much better at the love business than the hate business. Even with this child who's grumpy, he goes and meets him with grace. You know, come back and celebrate with us. And really, this is Jesus cajoling those Pharisees and scribes. You know, give it up. Give it up. You're so mad that I'm you know, speaking good news to tax collectors and sinners. You know, if you could recognize, you know, all the words of the Father there, you know, all that is mine is yours. You've always been my child. You know, the Pharisees and scribes, you've always been mine. I mean, I've never withheld my blessings from you. So don't begrudge this kindness that I'm also showing to these brothers of yours. These aren't just tax collectors and sinners. These are your brothers. These are your family. Yeah, I mean, what can you do but just pray and thank God for the grace he's shown to us? Pray that he would take away our resentment. Pray that he would continue to reach out to the lost, you know, who are dear to us. Pray that he would free us from resentment so that we don't begrudge God when he does go after the lost. I want to show a few things. I love artwork. I think you know that. And I'd like to show some artwork, and I'm going to try to bring this up on my screen here. As you can imagine, these parables have inspired a lot of artwork, and this prodigal son especially, you know, might be one of the most painted of Jesus' parables. This is a painting by Rembrandt, and I think one of the unique things about this is that it's so often the paintings of this parable, you know, they feature the moment of reconciliation. This painting of Rembrandt is not the reconciliation. This is that scumbag son out there living it up with prostitutes. But Rembrandt himself, same painter, also had, this is the more famous painting perhaps of the reconciliation when that boy comes home. And it's interesting, you can see in this painting both these people, perhaps they worked for the father, but also I think this guy in the background would be that older son, not too happy about what's going on. But gosh, you can hardly see it in this example, but there is a figure back there who I think is a female watching this, probably the mom, I'm assuming. You know, the one, she's not mentioned in the parable that Jesus tells, but you know, there's a mother in this story, obviously. You can just imagine what was going through her mind with all of this happening. Also love for her son, also worried about the older grumpy boy who refuses to join the celebration. But others as well, I mean, other just beautiful moments of this reconciliation. One person who should not be happy is that guy right there, the calf. You know, he's about to have, you know, he's about to be party food. But maybe that's why that guy's carrying the axe, getting ready to prepare the feast. But you know, they're bringing out the robe. The father said, bring a robe, put a ring on his finger. Here's a modern Chinese artist, He Chi is his name. Also this moment of reconciliation, the ox there, prepared for the feast. And an African version as well. You know, you can see the joy, the celebration of others as well. And he's included, this mom in the scene. And another one. I love this one. I mean, the father just, his face looking to heaven with, I'm sure, just overcome with gratitude and joy. I'll show those to you later on, and they're just, I think, some beautiful representations of this. And I think things that we can relate with. So I'm just going to pause there. We've just got a few minutes left. Any questions or comments? Or again, maybe I'll ask the question again. Is this realistic or is this heavenly? Is it both? Probably both.
I think civil rivalry between children, especially as they get older,
Yeah.
is the hardest thing, one of the hardest
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is realistic.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, my
Yeah.
youngest sister went to my parents, I can't tell you how many times, for money. And at first I looked at it like, well, this isn't right. She's getting all of this, is there gonna be anything being left for me?
Yeah.
You know, and after this had gone on for a while, I sat back and thought, you know what? I'm really fortunate that I'm not in her shoes. I don't have to worry about this. Do I need what she's getting? No, I have been taken care of, so it just sort of, I'll leave it at, and to this day, I'm glad I'm where I am, not my sister, so.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, we're talking about stories here of sibling rivalries and resentments, and that's very real. And we know too, I think, you know, as parents as well, I mean, this is so hard, you know, when you have one child who needs your attention, sometimes very unfairly, you know, especially if a child is taking advantage of his parents and that kind of thing. And it's so hard as a parent, you get in these positions where you want to, you know, care for a child, but you recognize, I'm not giving the attention to that child, these other kids, like I should be. It's unfair. And I think, again, your comment is helpful. Yeah, that parable of the lost sheep invites us to pray and put people in God's hands. You know, please, Lord, watch over these other ones. But, I mean, life puts us in these positions all the time. And, you know, we just have to always rely on God's grace to watch over the people who are dear to us.
The parents don't always do what this father did either.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
news begin to fighting one
Yeah.
another, they will take sides.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah. Patricia just said parents don't always behave the way this father does. I mean, that this father, he cared for both of these boys, and sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes, some kid really does get the short end of the stick. These parables, they really stick with you.
I really like what Sue said. You know, it becomes so clear sometimes that, you know, prayers of thanksgiving, you know, I just think
Yeah.
it's so true that look beyond and always realize the blessings and, you know, like this son, you know, that, I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah.
That sometimes
Yeah.
blessings are in different forms.
Yeah, I mean, Jan is inviting us to, I think, sort of speak like this father, to say to the son, you don't recognize all the blessings you have received, right? I mean, that you feel like you're getting the short end of the stick, but look, you've received all of this.
Exactly.
That for that older son in the parable, he was there the whole time, and maybe once, he really won't forget that one time he asked for that fatted calf and dad said no. That's always going to stick with him. But meanwhile, I mean, just think of all the things he was receiving, but it was that fatted calf that really stuck with him. You didn't let me have a party. But meanwhile, we should recognize all the things that God provides day after day, and not just the fact that he seems to be unfair, about giving other blessings to certain people. So, well, I'm going to wrap it up. I mean, it's come to the end of the hour. Thank you. Thanks for enjoying these parables together. We'll continue with chapter 16 next week. But let's right now conclude with our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. All right. Thanks, everybody.